This is Wycombe Sound.
Well, hello everyone, my name is Dane Cobain and you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM at Wycombe Sound. This is the weekly radio show every Tuesday night at 7 PM. We have different guests on each week. We play some local and indie music. We have a regular segment called The Rhylight Zone where we have some sort of creative stuff like stories, poems, that sort of thing. And we also have a weekly album review from Twangling Jack Ford over in the Iltshed. This week's guest is going to be Alice Jane. She's a local singer-songwriter, so we're going to play some of her music as well. And yeah, we're going to head over to the Rhylight Zone in a little bit too. As always, you can find The Art Show on Facebook. If you just search for The Art Show Wycombe Sound, you should be able to find us. And you can also email me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wycombesound.org.uk. I particularly want to hear from people who are involved in the creative arts, any news that you might have, special offers, promotions, all that kind of stuff, or even if you just want to shout out, just reach out to me and let me know. So before we get into this week's show, I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to Wycombe Food Hub. I've been following them on Facebook for a while now. I know an artist actually who has a residence upstairs, Calculator. He's been on the show before. And we talked about the Wycombe Food Hub actually. They do a great job. They take expiring food from supermarkets, donations from members of the public, that kind of thing, and they just make it available for people who need food. They have a really great system going on as well. So it's really for everybody. They have like different tiers. So you can go along and you can get your basic food rations for free, or you can pay like £3 and you can get let loose on the fridge sections and all of that stuff. So I wanted to say as well, if you do have any leftover food from Christmas that you're not going to be able to eat, please do consider donating it to the Food Hub. I imagine they're going to be getting quite a lot of donations at the moment, so in particular if you have like longer life stuff with a longer expiration date, if you can maybe hold on to that for a couple of weeks and then drop it off after the Christmas rush is over, that would be great, and I'm sure they would really appreciate it. And you can find out more about Wycombe Food Hub by giving them a Google. So we're going to head over to the Rhylight Zone, which is where we have a weekly sort of segment for the creative arts, and this week we're doing a spoken word special. So we're going to start with a couple of poems by Lightfoot. He actually uploaded these as YouTube videos. He's got a great YouTube channel, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can listen on catch up on iTunes, Spotify, or youtube.com/Dane Cobain. And you can see like the video episodes, so you can see me speaking at the moment, and you'll be able to see Ant reading his poems. So first off, we have Morning Page.
I'm achy today, a growl of hunger in my belly. I guess these don't always have to be about me and my feelings, but it is me typing them out, so I also guess that inevitably they always will be. I've got a video chat tomorrow with a lovely queer theatre maker. They also invited me to a Theatre Queers video chat in the evening, and I'm afraid. I get so anxious with the immediacy of phone calls. There's this pressure to fill the empty titanic void of silence. It's different to meeting up in person, although I've also been struggling with that of recent years. There's more of a pressure. They feel open-ended. You don't know if they're going to go on for minutes or hours. Sometimes I'm afraid that not wanting to call people will alienate me from my friends. It's weird that I'm totally okay with a big group call because you can kind of lose yourself amongst the chaos of a Zoom conference chat. Sometimes I worry that my brain's holding me hostage in my own home, unable to leave. Sometimes, often, I'm anxious that my art career is going to fail due to me not being able to attend networking events, go and see shows, introduce myself to people. When did it all start getting so hard? I used to be the life and soul of the party, regardless of how broken I felt on the inside. Then again, I did used to sleep in till like 5 or 6 PM when I didn't have to be anywhere, and maybe I was just starting to hone my skills as a big old faker. Fake happy, fake able. Being honest about my feelings means I flake more than not these days. I wouldn't be surprised if one day my friends gave up on me, stopped calling, stopped listening to the same automated voicemail screaming at them that I didn't pick up again. I want a cinnamon bagel.
That was Ant Lightfoot with Morning Page, and here he is again with a very short poem.
Going through a load of my old papers and notes and stuff because I'm building my website. Exciting. And I thought I'd do a little reading of a poem I wrote a couple of years ago. And it goes like this. Woe is me, OCD, forced to leave, DVDs, lol, cheese. I don't know, man. Yep.
Alright, so this poem's called Vanta Black. You'd look good in Vanta Black, the blackest of blacks, built from a forest of carbon nanotubes on aluminium foil, absorbing light at 99.99% efficiency and turning it into heat or something. Now, I don't do science or colours, but I know that you'd look good covered in vertically aligned nanotube arrays. It's like Sir Anish Kapoor, who said it's like paint and imagined a space so dark that you forget who you are and what time it is. You have great resistance to vibrations, greater thermal stability in military applications, and I know you're not NASA, but you'd look good in Vanta Black. Now we just need to find a brighter red. This is Coming Clean. Hey, come with me, we're going to build steam machines that harness the power of electricity, smashing atoms together at 99.99% of the speed of light. And all energy has to dissipate eventually, and like a car rolling down a hill, you can't keep on rolling forever. I've got this steampunk world just hiding in my head, waiting for documentaries. I want to see this town from a weather balloon. I want to heal myself with helium and feel premium like a deviant, sealing fate like a coelacanth shape. We use fake currencies, and you could chase volcanoes or erupt abruptly in an uppercut. And I terraformed a terraformed formula. Mad scientists coughing into beakers and somehow learning to juggle. Hey, you don't have to act your age, and your life is a speck of dust in the sunlight. Hey, your life is nice, so will you swap it with mine? Hey, I'll come clean, because I don't have many friends, but the ones I do have are good to me. Alright, this is called War. Wars are funny when you think about it. I mean, you're basically stabbing your neighbour in the face with a bayonet because some guy you've never met thinks that their God is better than your God. Listen, I understand World War II because the Germans killed Jews in their tiny rooms, and as a citizen of the world, you can't just stand back and ignore it. World War I was caused by inflation and the assassination of some archduke or maybe a pop group. World War III will be fraught with danger. World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. World War V will be fine because there'll be no one left alive to fight it. This is why I'm like a vampire. 1. I can't come in unless you let me in. I must be asked to pass the threshold or I'll stand outside in the rain. 2. Sunlight hurts my eyes. I don't rise and shine. I lose my mind because I'm tired and stay up all night. 3. I don't like garlic. Actually, that's a lie. I love garlic, but let's not talk about that. 4. I regularly drink the blood of virgins, assuming virgins bleed beer and cry strawberry tears, which I'm pretty sure they do. I don't know, I've never met a virgin. 5. I'm probably immortal, which is why I'm so scared of dying. 6. Despite being probably immortal, I will still die if you put a stake through my heart. Please don't do that. 7. I hold dominion over wolverines. I break bread with bats and liaise with the children of the night. 8. I don't like mirrors. When I was 17 and my mum went on holiday without me, I covered every mirror in the house with a bedsheet. 9. I could sleep for 1,000 years. Sometimes I could even sleep longer. 10. Society despises me and ignorant townsfolk chase me with pitchforks because they're scared of the new millennium. Bring me blood and lots of it. This is fear. Of the unknown, from the lack of sleep and the vertigo, from home to across the globe, the shaking hands and the glints in the eyes of the elderly gentlemen still working themselves into the grave. Of failure, of building paper aeroplanes overtaken by Iranians, or of blaming Homo sapiens singing Nearer My God to Thee. Of diffusion, like the confusing illusion of a musical movement, or a constant improvement that sees you in and out of the European Union. Of flying, of oh my god I'm going to dying, or of foreign policemen claiming writers have no diplomatic immunity. Of opportunities, of nicotine yellow pages in second-hand bookshops, or of booze-stained notebooks in the sunlight. Of maybe leaving the bathroom light on, of sleeping with the lights off and riding the night bus. Of fear itself. So this is the days eat their tails like a starving snake. It's Monday and 2 cups of coffee get the heart going, and there are too many days and too many nights, and the week ahead is a blank piece of paper with your name on it. It's Tuesday and maybe you ought to eat something. There's a fire in your eyes and no food in your belly, and mum says you ought to get some sleep, dear. It's Wednesday, where you hope you can barely make it, like shoveling snow in a thunderstorm to get the car off the driveway, and there's something in the air that tastes like freedom. Holy mother of God, it's frickin' Thursday and my mind is gone, but the show must go on. I should have booked the day off work. And it's finally Friday and I've piqued my disdain for the weekdays and my blood is running low on alcohol. It's Saturday, my friend, I missed you long time. And it's Sunday and a grey rain simply says it all. I'm out of money and I'm too tired to hoover my apartment. It's Monday and the cycle starts all over again. Alright, so that was this week's Rhylight Zone, and we're going to head over to some music now. I know it's a little bit late to play this, given that it is in fact the new year, but they were a little bit late in sending me this, so cut me some slack here. This is Dizzy Fish with their cover of Merry Christmas Everybody by Slade.
COVID-19 pandemic, our key workers will have experienced loss, trauma, mental strain, emotional difficulties, and many more factors which they will need time to recover from. Follyfoot Horses provide therapeutic sessions and a non-judgmental and natural approach to interventions using animal-assisted therapy. Follyfoot Horses would like to offer these therapeutic sessions to our local NHS and key workers for free after the COVID-19 lockdown is lifted, as we feel they will be most in need of some time to heal. But due to the lockdown closures, we have lost all of our income, and we need your support to raise the funds we need to continue our work. All donations will be gratefully received. For more information about our services and to donate to our fund, please visit our website follyfoothorses.org. Thank you.
All your business questions answered. HW Bidco will be hosting a series of webinars for local businesses. Join our panel of legal, HR and finance experts who are giving away their advice for free to help businesses navigate the COVID-19 challenges ahead. For more information and to register, visit the website hwbidco.co.uk.
We understand that everyday life is going to become challenging over the next few weeks and months, but we want to reassure you that the Wycombe Sound team are here to inspire and entertain you with local, relevant programmes and information.
We followed government advice and set our team up to work remotely. We have taken all the steps we can to keep our team safe so we can be here for you.
Local businesses. Perhaps you have closed temporarily or have found a new and innovative way of working. If you want to reach customers with your message, get in touch with us today.
We can get through this if we all pull together. Please stay at home, stay tuned to Wycombe Sound for the latest information, and do get in touch with us to let us know how you're doing, if you'd like a song played, or just want us to say hello to you.
Brazilian Sleigh Bells, which is a Percy Faith cover by Sloth in the City. And before that we had Merry Christmas Everybody by Dizzy Fish. I know it's no longer Christmas, but I think there's that 12-day rule, right? So you're still allowed decorations up, so we can still just about squeeze in some like last Christmas songs that people sent to me. Next Christmas, maybe if people could send me music slightly earlier, that would be fantastic. So we're gonna now jump on to our conversation with this week's guest, who is local singer-songwriter Alice Jane.
So to get started, the first question is one that I ask everybody, which is, what was the last book that you read and what did you think of it?
So actually, I've recently started getting into using Audible, and I really like it because I listen to books when I'm driving and stuff, and it's great. So technically that wasn't a read, but the last book that I listened to was on Audible by a guy called Pete Gregg, who's written a book called God on Mute, which was really good. I'd really recommend it. And then before that, the last one that I actually read, a paper version, was a book called Battlefield of the Mind, which was really interesting. And it's all about conquering your thoughts, which is really helpful.
It's like a lot of non-fiction then, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I do read a lot of non-fiction, but yeah, I think if we go into another lockdown, I will probably go back to like reading all the Harry Potters again, because I've not done that as a kid. And I probably need like some sort of escape, a world that's better than us.
It's funny you mentioned Harry Potter because I would definitely count listening to an audiobook as reading, but there are the Harry Potter books are probably the audiobooks I've listened to the most, and because there's actually two, because there's the Stephen Fry ones, which are like the UK ones, and then Jim Dale did the USA ones, and I think he used to be in the Carry On films. But they were both really good. Yeah, they actually kind of add something to it listening to the audiobooks, I think. Cool. So we're here mostly this week to talk about your music, and I figure a good place to start is your EP. So I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about it. So it's called Full of Promise. Where did you get the name for it?
So this has been quite a while in the making. So it's kind of a collection of songs that I've written over quite a period of time, and I just kind of cherry picked the ones that I thought went best together. And I knew that I wanted to do an EP, which is obviously shorter tracks. So I wanted less tracks, but still covering kind of a bit of a progression in themes, but also themes that still kind of made sense with each other. So I knew once I got to recording it and everything that it was going to be released around springtime. So I wanted to make sure that idea came across in the design for the EP. So I tied that in with the bigger themes actually in the songs themselves. So about hope and perseverance and looking forward to bigger and better things and seeing yourself grow and seeing the world around you change. And it really made me think about how actually those things that are really apparent in the lyrics were actually really reflected around that kind of thought of spring that was quite poignant for the time that I was releasing it as well. So yeah, I just thought that it kind of gives this idea of this beautiful transition into like warmer weather and longer days and more sunshine. And the name Full of Promise actually came out of a conversation I had. This is like the most wholesome thing I've ever done, having a conversation with a friend about spring, like how much we like spring. But I think it also definitely has links to my own faith, which underpins the stories that the songs tell about, you know, promising good things for my life and him always being with me and just that journey of growth and looking ahead. Cool.
And because I noticed that you mentioned on your Instagram sort of that you're faith-based as well. How important is that to your music? Like, how much does it underpin it? Is it just like a little subtle nod, or is it, very important to you?
Yeah, so I think in a way it's really important because it's the thing that holds me together and guides my life. So it's naturally going to come out as I write about my own experiences and telling my own story. There's just, Jesus is just weaved in there because he's part of who I am. But I'd also say that I wouldn't put myself down as a stereotypical, like, you know, those cringy kind of Christian artists. Because I like to write in a way that's relatable for people of all faiths or none. And I didn't become a Christian until I was at university. So I've actually spent most of my life outside of that kind of very specific cultural bubble. or at least what can be in like the Western world. And yeah, specifically with Full of Promise, they're songs which are full of hope, and my faith is the place that I get my hope from. So they were naturally gonna kind of be in there. But yeah, it's not something that you wouldn't relate to if you weren't a Christian, I wouldn't say.
Well, that's really interesting, as you say, like your own personal journey. I suppose that gives you like the experience to be able to almost step aside from it and look at it and, you know, say to yourself, would I have related to this when I was 15 and I hadn't found my faith, for example? So you can kind of see it from the two sides.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I mean, I also find it interesting because I suppose like religion and music almost go hand in hand in a lot of ways, especially, you know, historically, things like, when people sing it in church, but also even things like great works of classical music, quite often inspired by the church and whatnot as well. So I suppose it's almost like the 21st century's equivalent of that, like tradition, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because as a human race, you know, music is such a big part of how we celebrate. Like you go to a football game and, you know, well, when we're allowed, you go to a football game and people chant because that's how they're celebrating their players doing well. And, you know, then the other end of the spectrum, you have, you know, people have written really delicate love songs. You know, you think of Elvis Presley and things like that, and that's conveying that celebration of love in a completely different context. And I think music is just such a massive part of how we express ourselves and express those things that we can't really say in words, but we try our best.
Yeah, great. And so what's the story behind like recording the EP? How did you record it and who did you work with on it, if anybody?
Yeah, so actually the songs, so like I said, they were from, like, I've kind of got a bit of a bank of songs that I've written over the last few years. Apart from Hold On To Me, which was the most recent one, I recorded in January 2020, and that one was only written in December 2019, I think. And I kind of made a bit of a commitment to myself in 2019 that I wanted to make sure I got some of my songs actually properly put together into an EP before my next birthday.
Right.
And I was actually playing, so that summer in August 2019, I was actually playing at a little festival in Bedfordshire when I met someone there called Matt Hubbard, who is a really talented musician himself and a sound engineer and just all-round top guy. So he actually lives down the road from where my family live in Norfolk. So I went and stayed with my family for a few days and went to his, and we recorded the whole EP. And Matt actually plays the piano that you can hear in Pulling Threads, which he did a massively great job on because I am not a pianist and I have a really good sense of sound, but my sort of way of writing music or actually knowing, you know, oh, that's a 4/4 tempo or that's a, you know, whatever, I'm really bad at. So it was kind of me going, no, it needs to be more like, ha, 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 not ha, 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 ha. But yeah, I love being able to work with people who can deal with that. And he did, so that was great. And he added some drums and bass onto the other tracks as well. But yeah, it was such a fun experience and amazing to hear the tracks fleshed out and just come to life, especially when you're a solo artist. And, you know, I kind of had all these parts in my head that I wanted to add to the song, but when you're playing on your own, you know, you can only play as many instruments as you've got hands. But yeah, I couldn't believe when I came to the end of it, like that something I had written could sound like that. It was just, yeah, amazing.
Cool. And that leads me to like one of my questions about, do you play any other instruments or is it just vocals, guitars?
Yeah, so I can bash piano notes, which I only really do to kind of figure out tunes or keys or whatever. If I want like a little riff, it's kind of easier to pull up a keyboard app on my phone sometimes. But I do have a ukulele buried somewhere that might make a reappearance at some point if I can write a song that would suit it. But yeah, guitar and vocals are definitely my main ones.
Cool. So, and you mentioned kind of live shows and you mentioned the festival you played. What are some of the best gigs that you played? I mean, I'm guessing that one's got to be up there.
Yeah, that was really fun. I think that was just such a nice, so it was a festival called Kingstock, and it was just such a really chill atmosphere. And yeah, that was really nice. I think I've definitely played some really weird gigs in my whole kind of life cycle, because I've been doing music since I was a teenager. And I used to play in a duo And we once did a gig at this pub. I've played some really odd places where they ended up deciding that they were going to run a school disco themed night straight after our gig, which was, very acoustic, very chill. And it was a very big change of pace. And it was a bit distracting because there was kind of people who'd started to arrive dressed in like, you imagine Britney Spears kind of Oops, I Did It Again lookalikes. It was just very odd. And then there was this like very drunk sort of pensioner age lady dancing around wildly to us playing like some really morose folk tunes. It's just like, I think part of that though is just, gives you real experience and insight into what it's like to be a musician. But yeah, that was a memorable one.
For sure. It's funny because you probably as a musician like do learn more from gigs like that. There was a pub that me and my friend Dave, we play in a duo as well, and we had a show where we went to play at this pub, and literally the only people that were there were a bouncer on the door and the landlord. And at one point, like the landlord went outside for a cigarette, the bouncer was on the door, so we were playing, and we were like, we're literally in an empty pub just playing this song. Oh, wow. But and it was super cold in there as well. But it's one of those where actually it is really fun because it kind of forces you to, the show must go on, and it is more of a test, I think. And you see more what you're made of there than, or if you're playing in front of a hostile crowd, than if, say, you're playing in front of friends and family, and it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to love it.
Yeah, you have to be so adaptable as a musician, and I think it's those difficult gigs that are going to drill that into you more than the easy ones. Yeah. And speaking of adaptability, how have you adapted during the pandemic? I mean, presumably you haven't been able to play as many live shows. Have you been able to do any live streaming or anything like that? Yeah, so honestly, my heart really goes out to all the venues that have suffered so much from the loss of business. It's honestly such a heartbreaking thing because live music is so much a part of our British culture. And it's not just the financial side because, people who work in the live music industry, they're living off of that atmosphere and that buzz. There's really nothing in the world like being in the room with some awesome live music. So I've actually mostly taken this time to have a bit of a break and work on my day job rather than trying to do gigs over Zoom or things like that, which, major respect to anyone who has been doing that because it is just so difficult to engage with people when you're not in the same room as them. And I'm such a people person, and to not be able to interact with other musicians or the sound team or the people listening, it's such a weird experience. Some of the best experiences I've had playing my music is just going to random open mics and people who've never heard me have said, I'm following you on Instagram, or you really remind me of this musician who I really like. And it's that kind of spontaneity that, you're not knowing who's going to walk through the door and meeting new people that is what I really thrive in. So yeah, it's super, super hard. And I just really hope that 2021 will be a bit of a turnaround for that.
My name's Dane Cobain. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wycombe Sound. I'm here in conversation with local singer-songwriter Alice Jane, and this is one of her tunes called Pulling Threads.
The pull of a sunset after the tears of a rainy day, or the melodies of laughter in your living room. It strings together all of the moments that call you broken, and there is a piece that connects with every piece. You're still pulling all the threads together, weaving our hearts beating, tying them next to yours. Away blossoms in every truth, never questioning the beauty of perfection. You're still pulling all the threads together, weaving our hearts beating, tying them next to yours. Letting the light in, letting the light in, letting the light in. It feels like breathing. Letting the light in, letting the light in, letting the light in. It feels like breathing. Letting the light in, letting the light in, letting the light in. Sometimes nature is natural. You're still pulling all the threads together, weaving our hearts beating, tying them next to yours.
That was Pulling Threads by Alice Jane. You're listening to The Art Show, 106.6 FM at Wycombe Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and I'm here in conversation with the woman herself, Alice Jane.
One of the more random questions I wanted to ask you, do you have a favourite chord?
Yes, I've thought about this one. So I like a good A-7.
Mm-hmm.
One of those, that's nice. I also like a C add 9. If you're going for a more major approach. So yeah, I quite like those. But apparently, one of my friends really makes fun of me because I have a habit of just writing everything in D. So none of those are in D. So yeah, I hope he listens.
It happens though, you know, I mean, and actually, do you find that as like when you're writing songs, I mean, you tend to have a certain key that your voice works in best, but also, again, like talking about favorite chords, you tend to have like favorite chord patterns, I guess, and like combinations and stuff. So do you find that when you're writing songs that you're sort of halfway through one and you realize, oh, like, oh no, this is basically the one I wrote last week?
Yeah, I think so. Pulling Threads, which was on the EP, that was kind of that vague kind of structure of the the kind of the rundowns and the picking. I'd been wanting to write a song that was a bit like that, like in that sort of C shape for a really long time, and I had kind of bits of it and I kept sort of changing the riff. So I probably was like bouncing around that riff for like maybe 3 years before I actually got a song where it just clicked. But yeah, I think in a way, you know, even though there's much to make fun of, I think it's good to know what you like your voice sounding, how you like your voice sounding. So actually me writing things in the same key, you know, it's better than singing something where I've got quite an alto voice. So it's quite tempting for me to start here and then just end up getting quite low and going, oh, okay, I'm not Barry White, I can't get away with that. So I think you do end up rolling around the same things that you like. But I think because of writing alone most of the time, I end up having kind of layers of stuff, which is why it's been great to record. Because, you know, it's kind of simple things, but, you know, okay, well, I'm just plucking a C chord there, but actually I can add that riff over the top and, you know, get a bit of cymbal on that and piano here. And that's what I find so cool about the process, is like layering things up.
Well, I suppose it almost as well kind of almost like solidifies like this is it, this is the finished version of the song, if that makes sense. Because I mean, I always find it interesting to talk to different people about how they write music as well. And it sounds like yours is very much like kind of different iterations. So you kind of have the idea and you kind of just keep sort of chipping at it and it sort of slowly forms itself.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. My songwriting process is less of a process, more of a random kind of happening. Kind of the way I would describe, well, my personality in a lot of ways, but definitely my songwriting is creativity over consistency.
Yeah.
So I've had times where, you know, there's been a week where I've written 2 or 3 good songs that have ended up as staples in my kind of set that I circulate. And then sometimes I might go 6 months and not write anything that I like. I mean, most of the bits of lyrics and music I've got written down in my notebook where I write songs, a lot of them, probably like, I don't know, a really embarrassingly high percentage of them are unfinished because, I don't know. I think that's the thing about the creative process, though, is that it's very subjective, and whether a song is something you want to pursue or not is very based on your mood on that day, or you know, that sometimes songwriting can be really cathartic, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily performative. So I think especially the way that my songs tend to be is that they are more often like a wrapping up towards the end of a reflection process about something I've worked my way through. I actually find it really hard. This surprises a lot of people, but I find it really hard to write when I'm still kind of in the middle of something in my head and turning things over. It tends to be when I'm looking back at something and realize how much I've learned about myself or other people, or just like what it means to be human. And it mostly gets turned into a song if I think it's something people can connect with. I kind of want to write, like, I say a whole story. A lot of the things I write about are evolving, but, you know, it's about, okay, well, in that time of my life, I was worried about this, and actually it really taught me a lesson. But yeah, I think I find it quite hard to write when I'm in the middle of something, because I find that then the songwriting is just because I'm not really sure where I'm at. The song doesn't really know where it's at either. But maybe that's something that'll change.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting, though. I mean, I think that almost ties back as well to this idea of like the full of promise and the spring and the new beginning. Like the songs kind of come about at the end of this thing, and they kind of almost mark that transition where song's done, you know, we can move on with life, we can, you know, experience some personal growth or whatever it might be. Yeah,
definitely.
Cool. So a couple more questions just to end on. First of all, if you could be a support artist or an opening act for any group that's currently around, who would it be and why?
Well, if we're discounting any artists that are no longer alive, I'm a really big fan of a band called First Aid Kit, and I've seen them live a number of times, and they're so great. And I think they would be really fun to go on tour with, which is why they would probably be my first option. I saw them a couple of years ago when they had the Staves as their support act, and that was just so cool, having these 2 bands made up completely of sisters with beautiful harmonies and just like some badass guitar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have loved to be on that tour with them.
Yeah, all that was missing was Larkin Poe as well. They're a great band too. Another band of sisters. Cool. And what's next for you? What have you got planned for 2021?
Well, that is a good question. You might have to ask Boris Johnson first.
Yeah.
I really hope that we can get back out there to gigging. And I hope to focus more on writing some new songs. I find that when I have stuff in the calendar, it's like, okay, I've got that gig. I would really like to get that song polished off.
Yeah.
Bring that out at that gig. And I find that actually having those kind of marks in the calendar helps me focus my songwriting a bit more. So I think they're kind of a bit of a chicken and egg thing. It's like, you know, are you going to gig first, and then out of that you're going to write more songs, or you're going to write songs more for the gig? But yeah, let's wait and see.
Okay. And where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so I'm on pretty much all the social medias. I'm not young enough to get away with being on TikTok, but I'm on Instagram, Alice Jane Musician, all one word, all lowercase. I'm on Facebook as Alice Jane Musician, capital A, capital J, capital M. I'm on Twitter, Music Alice Jane. You can search for Alice Jane Full of Promise EP on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, all of the many streaming platforms. you can find me.
Thank you very much to Alice Jane for joining me. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM at Wycombe Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is another Alice Jane track. This is Wait.
We are the One Can Trust, our local food bank, helping vulnerable families and individuals across High Wycombe and South Bucks. Right now, there's a greater need than ever, and we really need your support through online cash donations. Whatever you can spare will be gratefully received, so that together as a community we can make a big difference. Just visit onecantrust.org.uk/donate. From all of us at the One Can Trust, thank you.
This is an appeal from Wycombe Homeless Connection. People who live on the streets are incredibly vulnerable. Wycombe Homeless Connection work all year round, making sure no one ends up living on the streets. They need your help to ensure anyone locally who might otherwise be homeless is safe and secure, and to make sure no one is homeless during the coronavirus pandemic. Just £5 a month can help them continue to support people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. Visit their website at www.wyhoc.org.uk or call 01494 447 699 to find out more and to give today. Every gift helps. Thank you.
All your business questions answered. Throughout April, HW Bidco will be hosting a series of webinars for local businesses. Join our panel of legal, HR and finance experts who are giving away their advice for free to help businesses navigate the COVID-19 challenges ahead. For more information and to register, visit the website hwbidco.co.uk.
That was Superlord versus Gargantuan by Superlord, and before that we had Wait by Alice Jane. My name's Dane Cobain, you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wycombe Sound, and we've reached that part of the show where we hand it over to Twangling Jack Ford over in the Oak Shed for this week's album review. So over to Twangling Jack.
John Otway and Wild Willie Barrett. This was the first album Otway put out. It contains an early version of his hit single Cool Baby That's Really Free. It's got the song Louisa on a Horse, which was produced by Pete Townsend and mentions Prince's Risborough and White Leaf Cross. And it's got the classic Cheryl's Going Home, which is a high point of his live act. And he famously played it on the whistle test and jumped up on his amplifier and fell off, and it became a household name after that. I probably first saw Otway at Friars in Aylesbury, which was very much a triumphant homecoming gig for him. He was with Wild Willie Barrett, but Wild Willie Barrett walked off, didn't do the encore, and Otway stood on the stage on his own, threw away his guitar because it was out of tune, and sang To Love Somebody, and the adoring crowd, just arms in the air, sang along with him. I last saw him sometime in the 90s at Wycombe Town Hall. John Otway and Wild Willie Barrett, true local heroes.
So as always, thanks a lot for listening. My name is Dane Cobain. You can find us on Facebook if you search for The Art Show on Wycombe Sound. You can also email me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wycombesound.org.uk. We'll be back next week with another show, but in the meantime, there's one last tune. So this is Winter Hill by Frank Birtwhistle. I'll see you next week.
This is Wycombe Sound